video, I decided to make a video of the final that you can watch after taking the final and turning it in, obviously, because I figured this would be a way to help review for exegesis and for the spring semester. But also, if you have questions about particular words or phrases or things that you feel like you didn't get right, this would be a way to just quickly check in and see what we're doing. So these two texts, obviously, were taken, one from the Joseph story in Genesis. One was taken from, the first text was taken from Genesis 45 and edited. That is to say, it doesn't exactly occur how it does in Genesis 45. And then it's the scene where Joseph reveals who he is, obviously, to his brothers. The second text was from Ruth, chapter 1, and there was a little bit of editing that happened there too. But I'll walk through these one by one. So, text number 1, verse 1, Vayomer Yosef el Echav Kirvuna elai Vayikrevu Vayomer Ani Yosef Achichem Asher Makartem el Mitzrayim. Okay, so this first part here, Vayomer, that's a Vav consecutive, or Vayik Tol. It is a call, so this is a call Vayik Tol, or a call Vav consecutive, storytelling mode, right? It starts with a Vay, it's a Vayomer. It's got a holum over the first, over the performative here. Right, it's got no sufformative at the end. It's just got one performative. That's a yod, so it's a third person performative. It's got a o vowel here instead of the hirek, the I vowel we would have expected, because it's a first aleph. First aleph just mess with your patterns. Sorry. So Vayomer, and he said, and then we have our subject next, Joseph. So, and Joseph said to his brother, or his brothers. So Echav is this yod here. This is the plural. That used to be Achim, right? You take off the mem, you keep the yod, add the vav, and now you have Echav. So Joseph said to his brothers, Kirvuna. So this right here, Kirvu, we have our root there, karav, which means to approach or come near. We have a na that comes after it, which helps us figure out what this is. Whenever you see a na like that, you remember it's translated like now or please, but really it's what we call a particle of entreaty. It just means you're asking a question of someone, or really you're commanding them. You're suggesting something or ordering someone to do something. So whenever you see that, that's coming after an imperative, or maybe a cohortative, which is, remember, a way to say like let us do something, first person, or it's coming after a jussive, which is like a third person command. Let him go or something. A third person command, a jussive. So, but here it's coming after an imperative. So if this had a tav, this a kirvu right here, if this had a tav in front of it, it'd be tikravu, and that would mean you all will approach. We take off the performative, the prefix, right? We take off the performative tav, and what you're left with is an imperative. Remember, an imperative is a performative with the performative removed off of an imperfect verb. So this is just a call imperfect that was turned into an imperative. So we would parse this as a call imperative, and this is a plural. It's got an u ending, right? So kirvu, so come near, not please or now, or you don't have to translate that actually, but you can just say come near, and then elai. El is to, the preposition to, like towards, and then I at the end, that's me. It should be eli, but this particular preposition here, el, takes this strange form here for our first person object suffix. So come near to me. So come here, basically. And then vayikrevu, and they came near. So this is the vayak tol form of that exact same verb, right? So come near, and they came near. So they're obeying him. Vayomer ani, and he said, I, and then Yosef, I, Joseph, Achichem, brother of you. I am your brother. So you might say, well, this has a yod after brother, right? And there was a yod here, so how do we know this is plural? It had the long a vowel here, the short I vowel here. It's not much of a difference. Brother is a strange word. It's like many of the words that have to do with family members. It's very, very old, older than Hebrew, in fact. It's from a pre-Semitic, a proto-Semitic language. So anyway, it takes these strange connectors here. But still, you could kind of figure it out from the context. I am Joseph, right? Verbless clause, we're adding the verb to be in English. So, Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. Achichem, your, here's the object suffix, your brother. Asher, whom or which, right? That's the relative particle, which or who or where, right? It can be any of those things, but you just kind of make it fit in translation. So asher, which makartem, makar is a verb meaning to sell, and tem is your perfect ending. Zipatatati utem tenu. This is our second masculine plural ending here, our subformative. So makar plus tem. This is a perfect. So this is a call perfect verb here, and this means you sold. And then El Mitzrayim, to Egypt. Mitzrayim just means Egypt, right? So I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold to Egypt. Okay, so then the next verse. Va'ata al tira'u va'al te'atzavu itchem ki makartem oti hena shalach Elohim oti lifnechem lishmor chayim. So, and now, va'ata means and now. Often it has like a kind of conclusion to it, and now, or therefore, or and so. Al, this looks like the preposition to, this one right here, al, it looks like the preposition to, but the preposition to has an E-class vowel underneath it, so el. So, but it's not el, it's al. This is a patak, and this is one of the two ways in Hebrew you can say not or no, right? Lo means not, and al means do not. Lo means never, never, never. Al means don't do this thing right now. So al tira'u. So don't right now, and then tira'u. This is a tav, our tav prefix. We have an u ending. So this is second plural here. Tira'u, and this is our root here, yara. See this yara right here? So that's our root. Now, when a resh and an aleph occur together, it might be ra'ah, a third hey, which means to see, but if it has a yod right in front of it, that's yara, that's to fear. So do not fear. Y'all don't have to be afraid is what this means. Do not fear. Va'al te'atzavu. So va'al here, and do not, and then this right here, atzav. So right there, atzav te'atzavu. Atzav means to be distressed. You can see here, this is a tav in the front and a shurek at the back, so second person, plural, and the root, to be distressed. And then our pattern here, we have a tsere under here, a long IE class vowel. If that was a hirek, this would just be, this pattern would be a little bit more normal. We would expect a hirek under our performative if it was in the call. But then the other possibility is a nifal, where you get a hirek, a dagesh, and a kametz, which is actually what you're supposed to have here, but this is a first ayin, first guttural. Gutturals don't take dageshes, they reject the dagesh. So we have a lengthening of the vowel here to compensate for it. So this is a nifal, which you might even just kind of guess that it was a reflexive or passive meaning by, it's like to be, like do not be aggrieved or do not be distressed, right? So that's this kind of passive meaning. But in any event, itchem, with you, with yourselves. So again, this kind of reflexive meaning in the nifal. So just to start from the beginning there, and now do not be afraid and do not be distressed with yourselves. Ki makartem, for you sold, oti hena. You sold me, and then hena means here. It looks like hine, which means behold, but look at the vowels are really different. Hena, it's just a word, you can look it up in the dictionary, you can look up BDB, and it just means here. So for you sold me here, remember they're in Egypt having this conversation. For you sold me here, shalach Elohim oti, God sent me, lifnechem, before you, chem, an object suffix, second masculine plural, lishmor chayim. Lishmor, the root there, shamar, is to watch over or guard or keep. The lamed there, whenever you see a lamed stuck onto a verb that you know, you're looking at an infinitive construct. This is also the pattern of an infinitive construct, to have a holum over your second radical. It's a call infinitive construct pattern. So lishmor. And then, so to guard or to watch over or to keep. And then chayim, life. So like to preserve life, to keep watch over, to guard life, something like that. I've got the little cue here, by the way, that this is a nifal verb down here. So that was pretty nice of me. Okay, so then vayish lacheni Elohim lifnechem. La sum lachem she'erit ba'aretz u la ha-chayot lachem am gadol. So, vayish lacheni, we saw that verb in the previous verse. This is a vayi or a vayik-tol. This is a call vayik-tol here. We have a hirek under our performative. So, this is the verb shalach, to send. So, and you sent, and then we have a ni ending, which is our object suffix ending on verbs for first person. So, and this is a third person then, the yod on the front there. And this ni ending is the object suffix, so there's no other ending. There's no sufformative for the verb, so this is, and he sent me. And then who's the he? Elohim, God. Now, look, I know that we wouldn't translate this with, or at least I wouldn't translate this with a masculine pronoun these days in English. But grammatically, in terms of verbs, Yahweh was often encoded in masculine terms in ancient Hebrew verbs. So you can just say, and God sent me lifnechem, before you. So God sent me before you. Remember, Jacob's still up in Israel, or in the Canaan, but it's Joseph who was sent there first before his brothers, right? So, and God sent me, that is to Egypt, before you. Lasum, so remember my thing about lameds stuck onto verbs, So this is a infinitive construct, to preserve, lachem, for you, se'erit, which I parsed here for, I just define it for you, the remnant. So to preserve for you a remnant, ba'aretz, in the land. So there's going to be this massive famine, but Joseph is sent down there by God in order to create the conditions for life. U le ha-chayot, this is a confusing one, but I've given you here, ha-chayot, which I've said comes from haya, and is a hifl infinitive construct. I gave all that to you. Wow, that's a lot. That's pretty nice. Okay, so this vav here, the and then lamed, that's a preposition to, which is attached to a verb, so you know it's infinitive construct. And then the chaya, which means to live, is your root. By the way, you might be saying, why is there an ot? Why is there a feminine ending on the end? That's a third hey. Notice you got a hey here as your third root letter for the root chaya. When you put a third hey into infinitive construct form, you get this tav ending. When you have a yod before it, you get an ot ending. So this is just what happens. But in any event, here's your ha for the hifl. Hifl in infinitive constructs, hifl infinitives get this ha beginning to them. So hifl infinitive construct, chayot, which is the infinitive construct form for a third hey verb. So this is, and to cause life, or to make live. Lachem, for you, am gadol, a great people. Like to keep your great people alive or something like that. Syntax is a little bit strange, but to preserve a great, or to keep alive, to make alive, to make live for you a great people. That is Israel, who's about to emerge from all this group of people who have descended to Egypt. So va'ata, and now, remember that from before, lo atem shalachtem oti hena. I'm going to stop there. This little two dots above, that's a zakif katon. That's a great place to stop reading and kind of translate up to that point. So, and now, not, this is the low, like when it's used with a verb, it means like never not. But here it's the one that's also used with nouns and pronouns and things. So, lo atem, so not you, you did not. Shalachtem, this is shalach, that verb like to send, and then a tem ending, zipatatati utem. Here's your perfect ending for y'all. So y'all did not send ot, me. This is our object, has an o above it, right? Et plus an o for object, and then an e ending. This is our object suffix pronoun here for me. So, and now you yourselves did not send me hena here. Ki, which often means for, because, it can also mean but. Like, so here I think it works out. But God, ha Elohim, but God did it. Vayasem oti, and again I'm going to use a pronoun here, but and he because it's masculine in ancient Hebrew. He set. So this is a middle week verb. This is a vayik tol, so vay, or a vav consecutive, right? This is our storytelling mode. And here we have a sem, we have a sin and a mem. In between that, for the root, would be a yod. This is a middle week. So the yod disappeared when you put it into the vav consecutive aspect. And when you can tell it's a middle week because underneath the performative here is a comments. Now, just to run through our possibilities again, underneath your performative, if you see a hirek, you're probably looking at a call. If you see a hirek, then dagish, and a comments, in your next, in the first letter of your root, what comes after the performative, you're looking at a nifal. That's the nifal triangle. If you're looking at a schwa underneath your performative, that's a PL. If you're looking at a patak, a short A-class vowel, you're looking at a hifil, typically with strong roots. But here with a weak root, a middle weak, you'd find in the call this long A-class vowel under your performative, a comments. So vayasem, this is a vav consecutive of the middle weak, seam. And he placed ot me, same thing that we saw back here. So, and he placed me, or set me, la'av, to a father, la'faro, to Pharaoh. Here we might translate this, again, all prepositions in ancient Hebrew, just like prepositions with any language, we need to nuance when we translate them into English. So, God set me as a father to Pharaoh, or God placed me like a father to Pharaoh, something like that, right? Kind of in charge of Pharaoh. U la'adon, and to a lord, or as a lord, l'kol beto, to all, beit, house, and then o ending him, that third masculine singular object suffix, and as a lord to all of his household. U moshel, mashal is a verb meaning to reign or rule. It's a strong root, so you just look up mem, shin, lamed, and bd and you find it. And rule, and the pattern here, when you have a holem over your first radical, that's a call active participle form. So u moshel, that's our call active participle masculine singular form. And ruling over, so God set me, right, to rule over, or ruling over, b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, all the land of Egypt. So moshel, so like ruling over all the land of Egypt. And then to conclude this chapter of the Joseph story here, alu el avi v'amartem elav lemor ko amar binecha Yosef sam oti Elohim la'adon l'kol Mitzrayim rada Eli al ta'amod. So alu, this comes from the weak verb Allah. I give you the hint there underneath. This is a third hey verb, right? So Allah means to go up. This is an imperative. So alu, come up. Go up, really, So this is Joseph's talking to his brothers, right? Go up, el avi, to my father. Go up to my father. That is Jacob, right? Who's still in Canaan. Va'amartem, and say. Now, when you have an imperative plus a vav plus a perfect verb, this continues the imperatival chain. This is like one of those chains of verbs in Hebrew that does something. So go up to my father and say elav, to him, lemor, saying. This is a call infinitive construct there, lemor. This often happens, say to him, saying. You can even just translate lemor with like quotation marks. It's kind of like quote. It's how ancient Israelites said that. But anyway, so saying, ko amar binecha Yosef. Ko is thus, so thus, and then amar, says, binecha, bane, that's like son, and then cha, of you, right? That's our second masculine singular object suffix. So thus says your son Yosef, Joseph. Thus says your son Joseph. So this is a messenger formula. Thus says your son Joseph. This is what the messenger says when the messenger arrives, in order to let the person know who's receiving the message who said these words. And then Sam, Remember, this is that middle week root seem, to place or put. We're seeing this here. This is what a middle week call perfect looks like, or a call participle. They look identical here for these middle week verbs. But sam, so sam oti Elohim, this is repeating what happened in the previous verse, right? God set me, so he set oti, me, and then the subject comes after that, God. God set me la'adon, as a lord, l'chol Mitzrayim, over all Egypt. And then we get more imperatives, rada. And I gave you that note down here, right? Rada comes from yarad. This is what happens to first yod verbs when you put them in imperatival form, or in infinitive construct form. You kind of get this strange thing where you lose the yod at front. So here we get rada, which it gets this hey, comments hey on the end. This is just what happens with first yod imperatives. So this is a call imperative, masculine singular. So come down, Eli, to me. We saw that before. Al, do not. This is like the do not now. It's not never, but the do not now. Al, do not now. Ta'amod, stand there. Don't stand. Amad just means to stand, that root there. Ayin, mem, dalet. So now you might say, why does it have a patak under my performative? Because that would say hiffle. And it would say hiffle unless this was a first guttural. This ayin here is going to stick its vowels that it wants, which are A-class vowels, underneath the performative. So whenever you see a first ayin verb, it's going to have this A-class vowel underneath the performative that precedes it. And this is going to make it seem like a hiffle, but it's not. So do not stand. This means kind of like don't stand there. Like don't just stand there. Get a move on, Dad. Come on down here. Okay, so that's that first text, the Joseph story. Now here's the Ruth text, right? So verse 1, just going to run through this in order here. Vatakam. So we have a vayiktol. It's got a tav here instead of what we might expect as a yod in the previous story and all the Joseph story, because the Joseph story has primarily masculine characters. The Ruth story has primarily feminine or female characters, right? So this is going to take a tav performative, because third person feminine verbs in the imperfect take a tav performative. So vatakam is a vayiktol. This is a call vayiktol. And the tav is our performative. And so that means what we're left with here is a root, and it's just kof and mem. Underneath our performative, we have a comment, it's a long A. And that means it's a middle week. So between the kof and the mem, we're missing a middle vav. So this is kum, to get up. So vatakom, and she got up. And then the subject comes next, he, which means she. Remember in Hebrew, he means she. So vatakam he, and she got up. Va, and kaloteha. And this ha at the end is her, so her kalot, and I gave you kalot is daughters-in-law, and her daughters-in-law. So, and she got up, and her daughters-in-law. This is Naomi getting up after the disasters that had befalled her in Moab. Vatashav mishde Moav. So va, and we have the same exact pattern as we had before, this vayiktol with a tav at the front because it's about a female character. And we have a long A-class vowel underneath the performative because it's telling us that it's a middle week. So this is shuv. This could be yashav, right? If you have a sheen and a bait together, you could be looking at yashav, which is a weak root with a yod at the front. When you add beginnings, the yod will fall off. So this could be yashav, theoretically. But that vowel underneath the performative is telling us that this is a middle week. Our middle week that has a sheen and a bait in it is shuv. And she turned. Misde Moav. This is a min, and Sedeh Moab means the fields of Moab. This is in construct. Sedeh, right? This is in plural construct form right here with a sari yod at the end. Fields of Moab. So from the fields of Moab. Notice the dagesh in the scene here. That's the noon from min. Min, Sedeh, Moab. From the fields of Moab. So she turned from the fields of Moab. Ki shama'a bisdei Moav. Because, or for, shama'a, this is just a call perfect third feminine singular. It's got the a ending because it's a third feminine singular ending. This is our perfect zip a ta ta ti. This is the a from zip a ta ta ti, our perfect endings. So this is because she heard, bisde, in field of Moab, because she heard in the field of Moab. Ki, that, or because. Here, if we translate this first one as because, like she turned because she heard, and then ki, that, pakad Yahweh, this is the name of God, Elohim, and pakad is just a call perfect, third masculine singular. Look at all those A-class vowels there. It's a strong root. It means to visit. Because Yahweh had visited et amo, his people. Again, gendering God masculine here simply because of the third masculine singular object suffix that's used to refer to God here. But yeah, God visited God's people, meaning people. Latet lahem lachem. This is a kind of confusing little bit here, but latet, right? So I told you here, tate equals natan, so to give, natan means to give. This is just a call infinitive construct form of natan. Sorry. Natan is doubly weak. It has a nun at the front and a nun at the end, and here you lose both of them. So latet, so to give. Whenever you see latet, that means to give. So God had visited God's people, latet, to give, lahem, to, that's the preposition to, and then them, and then lachem, bread. This, lechem is really bread. It occurs at the very end of a verse. Sometimes you get slight changes to vowels. It's called the pause. These were originally sung, right? Kind of chanted. Maybe not originally, but these were chanted when the Masoretes were writing these vowels. And so at the very end of verses, there tend to be these longer vowels. So lechem turned to lachem. But in any event, you can still probably recognize that. The lahem, to them, and then bread. So God gave to God's people bread. So that's why Ruth and Naomi that's why Naomi decides to go home, and Ruth, of course, follows. So verse 2, Vatetze min hamakom asher hayata shama. I'll stop there for the Zakif Katon. Vatetze, again, vayik tol, third feminine singular. This is first yod verb. I give you that down here. Tetze equals yatsa. Yatsa means to go out. You could also tell that because you have an unusual vowel under your performative. It's a tsere. This is what you find. If you have a tsere under your performative in just two letters, you're looking at a first yod. That's what happens with first yods when you add an imperfect performative to them, is that you lose the yod, and if it's in the call, that hirek turns to a tsere. So think of your yod as kind of just elongating the vowel. So vatetse, and she went out, min hamakom, from the place, asher, which, or where, hayata, this is the third feminine singular form of haya. It should be hayaha, but when you add a kametz hey ending, a third feminine singular ending, to a third hey verb, so haya has a hey at the end of the verb, and then you add an ah to the end of it, it gets a little confusing. So what they do is they do what happens, they do the same thing they do when a feminine noun gets put into construct. That is, they change the hey to a tav. So hayata is she was, shama. Sham means there, and ah means words, or the kind of directional. I know it can be a feminine ending, kamete, but when it's stuck onto the end of a noun or a place, especially, it means a direction. There's something called presumptive here. There's a presumptive pronoun. Sham doesn't really need to be there for it to make sense in English, but it's there because it makes sense in Hebrew. And in Hebrew, at the end of sentences, they often repeat the pronouns. This is called presumptive pronouns. We talked about this in the pronoun lesson. I know it's been a while, but sort of placeholders for place, or sham, there, and things like that can be resumptive. So vatetze min hamakom asher hayata shama, and she went out from that place, which she had been there. Right, where she had been. Ushete kaloteha, and the two of her daughters-in-law, ima, with her. Now remember the third feminine singular object suffix, when it's a pronoun, you will often get this mapik or dagesh in the hey. It can't be a dagesh because hey is a guttural and dageshes don't appear in gutturals, right? So if you see one, it's trying to catch your attention. It's so that you don't forget her. So ima is with her. So she and her two daughters-in-law with her, right? Vatelachna baderech lashuv el eretz Yehuda. So I tell you here, telachna comes from the root halak. It's a strange verb because it loses that first hey. Halak is a very common verb meaning to walk or go, and it just loses the first hey. It's the only word in Hebrew that loses a first hey. It's very, very strange. But in any event, it acts like a first yod. See your first yod vowel underneath your performative up here, the very first word of the verse, vatetze. Look at that same thing here, vatelachna. The only two letters you have from your root are the lamed and the kaf here. The tav is a performative. The na is our verb ending because it's our call imperfect second plural ending. So tetze is singular. So, and she went out. This now is plural. Vatelachna, and they went. Baderek, in the way, or on the way. La shuv, to return. This is our verb shuv, to return. This is just a call infinitive construct right here. To return, El Eretz Yehuda, to the land of Judah. All right? And then next, Vatomer. Remember, Vayomer meant and he said. Vatomer means and she said. Call, vayak, tol, third feminine singular. And then our subject. Subject comes next, Naomi. And Naomi said, Lishte kaloteha, to the two of her daughters-in-law, lechna. Now remember, just up here, I'm going to go up for a second here. Remember this, I gave you te'elachna, right? So te'elachna, take off that performative, and you're left with lechna. So that means that's an imperative. Go. And then shovna is from shuv. And this is return. The na endings are the feminine plural endings for imperfect verbs. We should have a tav there. The tav's been taken off because these have been made into imperatives. How do you make an imperative? You take an imperfect verb and you remove the prefix. So this is the imperfect verbs with the prefixes removed for a second feminine plural. So she's talking to two people, right? Naomi is telling both Ruth and Orpah, go, return, Isha levet ima. Now, Isha means woman. If ish meaning man or Isha meaning woman, if they don't make sense in context, the thing to do with them is to turn them into the English word each. So this would mean a woman to the house of her mother, and that's how it actually works in Hebrew. Like, if they're saying like each person gets one, they would say a man gets one. That's the way you'd say that in Hebrew. So Isha means a woman, that means each of you two women, Ruth and Orpah, levet to the house of Ima. Aim means mother, Ima means her mother. So in English, this would be each. The Isha would mean each to the house of her mother. But you can also translate this as every woman to the house of her own mother, or something like that. For the two of you, that is Ruth and Orpah. And then here comes the explanation. Ya'aseh Adonai imachem chesed. So ya'asa, this is from asa. All three letters of the root are there, which means to do or make or work. And the yod in the front, that's the performative. So this is a call imperfect. Now it should have a hirek underneath, but remember it's a first ayin. First ayins always just put an A-class vowel underneath the performative whenever they show up. So if you see an ayin in the first position, you got an A-class vowel under your performative, just guess call. So Yahweh is the subject, what comes next. So Yahweh has done, or you will do, right? So Yahweh will do, this is imperfect, so it hasn't happened yet. Yahweh will do, imachem, with you, chesed. Yahweh will do hesed with you. Chesed means like loving kindness, but it really means kind of like fierce covenant loyalty is really more what it means. So Yahweh will do fierce loyalty to you. Yahweh will have fierce loyalty with you. Yahweh will generate fierce loyalty with you. I don't know, exercise fierce loyalty with you. You got to kind of make that work. But in Hebrew, it's just an important thing to know that you do love. You do faithfulness. Like you perform it, you act it. Not perform it in a way that word is used negatively sometimes today, which is I don't think is right. But to perform something is to actually do it. That's the real thing. Anyway, I'll just say. But here, Yahweh does chesed. Yahweh will do chesed with you. Yahweh will do faithfulness with you. Ka'asher. Whenever you see ka'asher, it means just as. Ka means like or as. And asher means whatever, whichever, wherever, whoever, which, right? Any of those relative particles that we have in English, they are all this one word, asher in Hebrew. So as which is like a very literal translation. But if you are translating ka'asher into English, just say just as, or just like. Just like asitem, this is also from asa, this is from that verb to do. Why does it have a yod instead of a hey? It's a third hey verb. Why doesn't it have a yod? Why doesn't it have a hey there? Why does it have okay, it's because whenever you add endings to verbs that have third heys, you're going to get it turning into a yod like this. So asitem, this is just the normal third hey form. So asa plus a yod, you're going to drop the hey, you're going to get a yod. If you want to know more about this, the weak roots example video on participles, it tells you about when you add endings to verbs, and that's exactly what you get right here. So asitem. So y'all have done. This is a perfect, so it's a past verb, right? They see the tem there, zipatatati utem. Now I know it's that's actually a masculine verb. This happens in Hebrew sometimes. That is to say, there is some kind of gender slippage sometimes with verbs in Hebrew. Sometimes groups of women are referred to with masculine verbs. It's okay, not anything to freak out about. So just as you have done, im b'nei, with the sons of ani, me. So bain would mean son. B'nei, the serayot at the end here tells me there's more than one, and it's in construct. So the sons of me. Now, why did I say the sons? There's no ha here, right? I should have ha. Hey, patak dagesh, to mean the in front of this. It's because ani is the absolute term here. It's the one that comes after the construct, right? And ani is definite, and definiteness works back up the chain. I am definite. I'm a person, a distinct person, right? So you don't have to say the me. You just say me. But you understand that I am definite grammatically. So the definiteness works back up the chain, and son is not a definite word, but we can add the definite particle to it in English when we translate. So b'nei ani in English would mean the sons of me, or my sons. Va'im ani, and with me. So just to back it up for a second there, God will do chesed with you just as you have done with the sons of me and with me, with my sons and myself, right? So God's going to repay you blessing for blessing, right? Chesed for chesed, loyalty for loyalty. Yetain Yahweh lachem manucha v'shalom. Yetain comes from Natan. I tell you that down here. It's just a call. This is what happens when you add a prefix to a first noon verb. The noon turns into a dagesh and goes into the next letter. It's called assimilation. So yetain comes from Natan, and the subject comes next, Yahweh. So Yahweh will give lachem to you, manuka, rest. Yahweh will give you rest. Vashalom, and peace. Vatishak. This also, like Natan, this is also a first noon verb, and I gave you that down here. Look at how the form is the same. You still have a hirek here for call, but then you have this dagesh in your what looks to be the first letter of your root, but you only have two letters. So if you see that, what you're looking at is a first noon. If you only have two letters and you have a dagesh in your first one, and you've got a prefix, that's a pretty good sign that you're looking at a first noon. So this is nasak, which means to kiss, and she kissed. Et hen, them. So et is our object marker, and hen is our feminine plural, third feminine plural object suffix. So, and she kissed them. Va-tisena, we have the same exact thing we saw with Natan up here and with nasak here. The same thing is happening here. All three verbs so far are first noon verbs. Notice that we have a ti, we have a tav prefix, right? So for third feminine singular. And then we have a hirek underneath it, suggesting call. And then we have a dagesh in our next letter. And then we have a na ending, which is plural feminine. So we only have two letters from our root there, our sin and our aleph. And our first letter of our root has excuse me, a dagesh in it. That's suggesting this is a first noon. This is from nasa, which is a very common verb, which means to lift up, to bear away, to carry up. It can also mean, in metaphorical terms, to forgive. When God bears away your sins, carries up, lifts up your sins. That's nasa. So, and they lifted up. This is a vayik tol, or a kal vav consecutive of nasa, which means to lift up, second feminine plural. Third feminine plural. And they lifted up kolan. So kol means voice. And this is a singular word right here, but then an is plural. So they lifted up their voice, or their sound. Like all of them are lifting up one shared voice together, which is kind of a cool image there. And then vativ chena, If you look there, you've got a vayik tol beginning, you have a tav on the front, and you have a na ending, so this is third feminine plural. And then you have a bait and a kaf and then a yod. Remember what I said about the yod? If you have two letters of your root and then a yod and then an ending, you're probably looking at a third hey. And look underneath, I give you the hint. That's from baka, which means to cry. And they lifted up their voice and they cried. So they're all weeping together because they're about to split up. But then va tomarna la. And here we again have a tav at the front. We have a vayik tol form, right, or a vav consecutive form, vai, or vat here. So a va at the front, so and then a na and a tav. So that's third feminine plural. We know from the story, who's speaking here. And they said, Amar, and they said, so this is Ruth and Orpah speaking to Naomi. And then la. Lamed from to, it's the preposition to, and then we have a dagesh or a mapik really in the hey, telling us not to forget her. Don't forget her. So to her. So, and they said to her, lo, do not, ki, for, itach, and this is with, if this had a holum over it, it would be an object marker. We have an aleph and a tav, right? That's our marker of the direct object. If we had a holum here with an object suffix, that would be object. But instead we have an I here, a hirek, which means with. For with you, cha, this is our second feminine singular object suffix, meaning Naomi. For with you, nashuv, this is from our root shuv, to turn or go, and a na on the front of it. With noon added to the front of your verb. It could be a nifal, I suppose, but this is the first common plural, right? The imperfect. This is a call imperfect first common plural. Notice that we have our long A-class vowel under our performative. This is a performative, by the way, from our imperfect, right? Our first common plural imperfect, performative. So na shuv. So this long A vowel there is telling us that this is a middle weak. Of course, we can see all three letters of the middle weak there. We don't need that, but just reminding you that that exists. So this is we will return. La'amech, to, and then cha, to your, and then people. We will return to your people. And that's it. If you want to know the bonus, I've actually parsed all of these, I think, during the video. All of these occur, of course, in the stories. They occur basically in the order in which they occur in the stories, almost exactly. A little bit out of order, but that's the final. Okay, I'm going to stop this, but remember to keep reading, keep learning, keep your Hebrew fresh as you move into the exegesis classes in the spring, and just know you're going to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. 2021 is going to look a lot brighter, and peace be with you all. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you, and may God bless your studies of Hebrew.